First at 9 this Sunday, the 23rd of March 2025. Scam exposed. Motor traffic officials caught using fake documents to import vehicles revealed at Copa. Over 150 vehicles brought over fraudulent paperwork. Tourism boom. Sri Lanka welcomes over 600,000 tourists by mid-March. Over 120,000 visitors arrived within the last 16 days of the month. Economic roadmap. Sri Lanka must boost exports, cut spending and attract FDIs, said top management experts. Choose 5 key economic indicators to drive the economy over the next 5 years. Health alert. Health officials warn of a chikungunya resurgence. Urgent calls to spread mosquito breeding as the disease threatens to spread again.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්. ඉතින් මොකටද නිකන් නාගන්නේ?
ස්වදේශී කොහොඹ ලෙමන් ග්‍රාස් අද කාලෙට ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ම විසඳුම.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world, brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now on your top story tonight, urging caution, health officials have noted a resurgence in the spread of chikungunya disease in several areas including Colombo and Kotte. Health sector officials say that the transmission of the disease can be controlled by eliminating the breeding grounds of mosquitoes. Chikungunya is an arboviral disease transmitted by mosquitoes initially identified during an outbreak in southern Tanzania in 1953. The fever is endemic in Africa, Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, the Pacific region and subtropical regions of the Americas. In Sri Lanka, the first chikungunya epidemic was reported in the early 1960s. However, the virus re-emerged in the island in November 2006 after a 40-year absence. Recently in Sri Lanka, health officials noted an uptick in chikungunya cases reported from across the country. During the past few months, an uptick in chikungunya cases were observed, with the highest number of cases being reported from areas including Colombo and Kotte. Dengue and chikungunya are carried by the same variety of mosquitoes. Symptoms of chikungunya include a sudden onset of fever that will persist during the first few days. In addition, red spots or maculopapular rashes may appear on the skin. It is also possible for discolorations to occur on the face, hands and limbs. Another symptom is the black nose. Chikungunya is quite different from the bird flu. Unlike dengue fever, severe joint pain caused by chikungunya may persist for a considerable time. However, this may vary from one person to another. Joint pain for some may last for more than a year.
හන්දිකක්ම පවතිනවා කාලයක් තිස්සේ සමහර අයට මාසයක් දෙකක් අවුරුද්දක් දෙකක් වුණත් පවතින්න පුළුවන්.
වළක්වා ගන්න නම් අර ඩෙන්ගු රෝගේ වගේ.
In order to prevent the transmission of this disease, it is important that we eliminate the breeding grounds of mosquitoes. This would also restrict the spread of the disease among people. This is not an airborne or a foodborne illness. Simple medication or painkillers can be used to alleviate the pain. However, in case of severe joint swelling and pain, it is advisable that the patients be directed for further medical assistance. The patients are also advised to use simple medication and getting plenty of rest and hydration in order to prevent migraine conditions.
දී රෝගියෙකුට කරගන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් තමයි විචලනය වළක්වා ගන්න එක, සරල ඖෂධ මගින් වේදනාව මඩපවත්වා ගන්න එක සහ අවශ්‍ය පරිදි විවේකය ලබා ගන්න එක.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance. චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිග TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Now another startling scam was exposed at the Committee on Public Accounts hearing, where officers attached to the Department of Motor Traffic were exposed fraudulently importing and registering motor vehicles, depriving the government of much needed customs duty. Now let's take a better look at this startling revelation. Names of licensees approved to import 158 vehicles have been altered along with the conditions of the license. The licenses in question were granted to religious institutions. Furthermore, the dates of manufacture of 120 vehicles have also been altered. Do you mind providing an explanation regarding this matter?
පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් ඔබතුමාලගේ පැත්තෙන් කරා නම්
අදාළ නිලධාරියාට විරුද්ධව චෝදනා පත්‍රයක් දීලා දෙපාර්තමේන්තු ලිපිකරු විධිමත් විනය පරීක්ෂණයේ අවසානයේ නැවත සේවයට පත් කරලා තියෙනවා ඉන්ටර්ඩික්ට් කරලා ඉඳලා.
ගත්ත විනය ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය මොකක්ද කියලා කිව්වා.
පුද්ගලයාව නිදොස්කොට නිදහස් කරලා තියෙනවා ඒ කරුණු තහවුරු කරගන්න සාක්ෂි සහ තොරතුරු නැහැ කියන එක මත.
ඉතින් මුල් ලිපිගොනුව නැහැ කියලා වෙලා ඕන කෙනෙක් නිදහස් වෙනවා. වැරදි රාජ්‍ය පූර්වාදර්ශයකුත් ඇති වෙනවා. රාජ්‍ය ආදායම අහිමීමකුත් සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඔබතුමාලා මේ මට්ටමින් ක්‍රියා කරද්දී කොහොමද රාජ්‍යයක් ඊළඟ පහළ නිලධාරීන් සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරන්නේ?
මේ පද්ධතිය ගැටලුකාරී කියන එක මම රාජකාරී බාරගත්තේ 2022 අගෝස්තු 3 එදා සිට මම මේක වාර්තා කරා.
දැන් ඔය එක පුද්ගලයෙක් නිදහස් කරලා තියෙනවානේ. ඒතොර නිරීක්ෂණය වුණේ නැද්ද? එයා මේක කරා කියන එක. එහෙම නැහැ බරපතල කතාවක් නේ.
ආහන 158 අඳුරගෙන තියෙනවද?
ඒක තමයි මම පැහැදිලි කරේ.
ඔබතුමා පැහැදිලි කරන්නේ අඳුරගෙන තියෙනවා කියලා. මම කියන්නේ දැන් බිමේ වාහන ටික දුවනවා. අයිතිකාරයෝ ටිකක් ඉන්නවා. බොරු වාර්තා හදලා තියෙනවා.
දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ පරිබාහිර කණ්ඩායමක් දාලා මේක විමර්ශනය කරන්නයි කියලා ඉල්ලීමක් එක්ක තමයි ලෑස්ති කරේ මේ තොරතුරු ටික එකතු කරලා.
සමාජ විගණනයට අනුව මේකේ සම්පූර්ණ ගේමක් තියෙන කියන එක පැහැදිලි. මේක තුලේ කණ්ඩායමක් එකතු වෙලා සුද්ධයක් දීලා තියෙනවා.
කලින් හිටපු කොමසාරිස්තුමාලගෙන් පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් කරගන්න ඕන.
මේ කියන කාරණේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගුණ 118ක් හොයාගත්තා. අපි පැමිණිලි දෙකක් කරා අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට.
ඔබතුමාගේ දූර කාලය අවසන් වෙන්නේ
අගෝස්තු 3 වෙනිදා 2022. 3 වෙනිදාම තමයි මම දැනගන්නේ මම අයින් කරලා කියලා.
එහෙනම් පරීක්ෂණ යන හින්දා අයින් කරක් දන්නේ
හිටපු කොමසාරිස්තුමා අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට යොමු කරපු ගොනු පිළිබඳව බලධාරියා විදියට ඔබතුමා ඉදිරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග අරගෙන නැහැ.
Meanwhile, facts pertaining to a fraudulent scheme of importing vehicles was also revealed at the hearing.
ඇසුරුම් ලේඛන සාවද්‍ය ලෙස වෙනස් කරමින්
302 motorcycles and tractors that were imported over fraudulent shipping documents and without paying customs duty have been registered. By categorizing them as motorcycles and spare parts, 5 vehicles including a Toyota Allion, Premia, Corolla and Axio were imported without paying customs duty and have since been registered fraudulently. 18 vehicles including 2 Toyota Land Cruisers, 2 Mitsubishi Monteros and 4 Mercedes-Benz vehicles have also been fraudulently registered. 23 vehicles have been assembled using spare parts. These vehicles have then been registered as dual-purpose vehicles by fraudulently altering customs records. 3 vehicles that were imported as double cabs after paying customs duty have been registered as motor cars. During a physical observation, a vehicle that was imported as an ambulance was revealed to be a luxury jeep. 2 vehicles that were imported as ambulances were registered as dual-purpose vehicles. Officers who are responsible for this matter must face another disciplinary inquiry.
මීට අදාළ සියලුම නිලධාරීන් නැවත විනය ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයකට අදාළ කරගන්න ඕන.
Scaling up a monumental target of securing 3 million tourist arrivals for the year, Sri Lanka has so far attracted 613,728 tourists from the 1st of January to the 16th of March this year. According to the latest statistics from Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 120,750 tourist arrivals were recorded between the 1st and the 16th of March this year. The highest number of tourist arrivals for the month of March so far were recorded on the 8th of March with 9,073 tourists visiting the island. India continues to clinch the top spot among source markets with 19,317 tourists visiting the country, while the Russian Federation trails behind with a record of 16,562 Russian tourists visiting the country between the 1st and the 16th of March. A significant number of tourist arrivals were also reported from Germany, the United Kingdom, France and China. With that, we take you to a much beloved tourist hotspot of the country, the Yala National Park, where an employee's reprehensible conduct has garnered national attention. Accordingly, an employee working at the Patangala resting area within the Yala National Park has used fire to chase away a tusker named Gamunu. The incident was caught on camera by a bystander. Subsequent to an inquiry made with Manoj Vidyaratna, the caretaker of the Yala Sanctuary, it was revealed that due to the frequent visits of elephants to the resting area, the authorities have been instructed to temporarily close the specific resting area within the Yala National Park. Acknowledging the still unshuttered glass ceiling for women in Sri Lanka, Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya reaffirmed the government's commitment towards ensuring gender equality and highlighted 2024's Women Empowerment Act as a key piece of legislation that could advance gender equality island-wide. Speaking at an event in Colombo, the Premier further asserted that true female empowerment is interconnected with global efforts. The International Women's Day celebration, organised by the United Nations Association in Sri Lanka, was held yesterday at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute in Colombo. Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuriya and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism, Vijitha Herath, were among the distinguished guests of the event.
Regardless of her socio-economic status, educational qualification, religion, ethnicity, disability, or any other identity, all women and girls need to be protected and have their rights protected. Sri Lanka has a long history of strong and resilient women shaping our nation. Countless women have led changes in politics, business, and social movements, demonstrating the transformative impact of women's leadership. The Sri Lankan government has strengthened its commitment to women's empowerment through various policies and programs. The Women's Empowerment Act of 2024 established new legal protections and an independent National Commission on Women, which we are just putting together, marking a significant step towards institutionalizing gender equality, and the government is in the process of appointing the commissioners. The National Action Plan on Women's Economic Empowerment focuses on increasing women's participation in the workforce by supporting entrepreneurship and digital financial literacy programs for rural women, plus many other programs implemented by line ministries that have been tasked with economic upliftment of women and the entire nation. The new budget passed yesterday includes several measures to support and empower women and girls, yet while we recognize these achievements, we must also acknowledge that there is still much to be done. Women's participation in leadership, decision making, and the economy remains disproportionately low. As of 2025, only 10% of parliamentary seats are held by women, a figure that must change if we are to have truly representative governance. And that is after we double the figure of number of women in parliament, we are still just touching 10%. We must ensure more women in leadership, whether in politics, boardrooms, or community decision-making spaces. Gender-based violence and discrimination continue to affect countless lives, requiring urgent legal and social reforms. Sri Lanka's journey towards gender equality is not one we undertake alone. As a nation committed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 5, gender equality, we recognize that true empowerment is interconnected with global efforts.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම්වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
කැලනි වයර් කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. කැලනි Fire Shield Wire.
With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief. The Matra Magistrates Court has ordered the 4 suspects arrested in connection with the Devinura shooting incident to be detained for questioning until the 29th of March. 4 people, including a woman, have been arrested on suspicion of the double murder. Accordingly, permission for their detention has been granted when they were produced before the acting magistrate of Matra. Meanwhile, a stock of cannabis weighing around 85 kilograms has been seized through a joint operation conducted by the Military Intelligence Corps and the Maradankeni Police in Jaffna. The officers carried out the operation together with the MIC, subsequent to a tip-off received by the MIC in Jaffna. The street value of the seized narcotics is estimated to be around 17 million rupees. Further investigations into the incident are being conducted by the police. Meanwhile, the police have reported a surge in gun violence across Sri Lanka, with 27 shooting incidents recorded since the 1st of January 2025. These incidents have resulted in the deaths of 22 people, with several others injured. Accordingly, 9 shootings were reported in January, while 7 shootings were reported in February and 6 were reported in March. Now, drawing attention to the recent uptick in crimes, leader of the opposition and the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sajith Premadasa, claims that the Janata Vimukti Peramuna perpetuated and proliferated the persisting form of violence while also introducing political violence to Sri Lanka. Speaking at a meeting today, the opposition leader noted that the underworld enjoys the renaissance which the government claims is for the people. In view of the impending local government elections, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya held a candidates meeting in the Gampha district today under the patronage of party leader and leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa. People lie to cover their mistakes and then make even worse mistakes to cover their lies. This is what has happened to the NPP government. Incumbent government has revived a peculiar form of organized crime in the country. Sowing the seeds of organized crime are unidentified gunmen and those who perpetuate the culture of abductions, kidnappings and murder. Who introduced this culture to the country? That culture was instilled by the courtesy of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, a so-called patriotic movement. The culture of thuggery, homicide, gun violence and political violence was introduced by the JVP. The general public should never forget it. The underworld, not the general public, seems to be enjoying the renaissance.
පොදු ජනතාවට කෙසේ වෙතත් පාතාලයට නම් පුනරුදයක් නිර්මාණය වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, NPP MP Chandana Suryaraju claims that in April the government plans to present a new bill in Parliament to confiscate the wealth stolen from the government by past leaders and those affiliated to previous regimes. This revelation comes off the back of several accusations against the government over its inability to prosecute corrupt politicians so far as promised.
What
did they say? They said they would turn this country around in 6 months. They have now been in power for close to 6 months. However, they haven't accomplished anything. The people can clearly understand if they are actually competent or just all talk. The incumbent government keeps making excuses to cover up their incompetence. There are some who attempt to sabotage our well-intentioned journey. Certain allies and foes who must be grouped together now are attempting to sabotage our journey. Our government is ready to face those challenges and bestow a thriving nation, a beautiful life for the people of this country. The government claimed that the law will be enforced against corrupt politicians. They also said that politicians who defrauded, sabotaged, destabilized the country would be punished. But today we can only listen to lists being read aloud in Parliament. This government is incompetent. You have vested with us an overwhelming mandate. Ever since we were bestowed that mandate, we too had to work with the same judiciary, the same laws and the same law enforcement infrastructure that existed in the past. However, there is one difference. The difference vested to us by the people's mandate is clear when the law is enforced. Law enforcement agencies have begun operating independently ever since we removed politics from such agencies. Past leaders and those affiliated to previous regimes have illegally accumulated wealth. We will present a new bill in Parliament in a bid to confiscate such wealth accumulated through fraudulent means. The bill will comprise a proper legal procedure enforced by the judiciary to reclaim the wealth stolen from the government.
Meanwhile, SJB MP Mujibur Rahman reacted to the speech made by President Anura Disanayake in Parliament, summing up the third reading of Budget 2025. The President, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, spoke for 1 hour and 40 minutes. He claimed that he took over a collapsed country. Who in fact led the country to its collapse? Who protested against investors investing in the country? Who clogged up roads with protests? Who led protests against private medical colleges in Sri Lanka? They, in fact, decimated the country. Earlier, they deemed the IMF a death trap and opposed it. The Anukumara Disanayake-led government screamed at the top of their lungs that no country was ever revived by the IMF. Now he claims in Parliament that some keep on enticing them to abandon the IMF deal and that the government is not so naive enough to fall into that trap. Now, the 6th round of bilateral political consultations between Sri Lanka and Thailand will commence on the 25th of March 2025 at the Thai Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangkok. The consultations will be co-chaired by Aruni Ranaraja, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism, and Eksiri Pintaruchi, the Thai Permanent Secretary of Foreign Affairs. The consultations will review the progress made since the 5th round of bilateral political consultations held in Colombo in August 2023 and the official visit of the former Thai Prime Minister to Sri Lanka in February 2024. As Sri Lanka and Thailand commemorate the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations this year, the discussions will focus on strengthening cooperation in key areas including political engagement, trade and investment, renewable energy, fisheries and agriculture sector cooperation, defense, culture and tourism.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, the president of the Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka, Professor Lakshman Watawala, claims that although the country's reserves have increased over the past few months, exports must be encouraged by providing greater support to the SME sector. He made these remarks during the CPM Management Insights Summit 2025 held recently in Colombo. Meanwhile, Professor Pawan Kumar Singh of the Indian Institute of Management, who also participated in the summit, emphasized that Sri Lanka must focus on 5 key economic indicators to drive its economy over the next 5 years.
The CPM Management Insights Summit 2025, organized by the Institute of Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka, was held last week. With a focus on identifying and leveraging management's X factors of innovation, resilience, leadership and strategic foresight, the summit explores ways on emphasizing bold decision-making, agility and collaboration to navigate challenges and drive sustainable growth.
If you look at our economic situation, our reserves have now increased to rupees 6.5 billion. Exports need a massive jump with reactivation of the small and medium enterprises sector or SME sector. Actually, one of the suggestions that have been made for the export area is to set up what is called the export houses. And they are really institutions which will help the local producer and the small and medium sector. Another important area is, of course, the expenditure control, to which the government has given due attention, but it has to be done in all sectors, and one has to know what is the real cost of a product, what are the items that go into this, because many of them do not realize what their limiting factors are, what are the key factors that are sending this expenditure up. And one of the most important things relating to this, of course, is the productivity. Then we also see that we have a very huge public sector, and government should immediately start retraining all of them, because this should be the way that they could be, their work could be accelerated, and also they could be given the new technology that goes into making them useful public servants to serve the society. The most important area that the government has taken into account is, of course, the anti-corruption drive. This also is very important, and I'm sure will do a lot of good. We find that the youth are leaving the country in large numbers. Maybe that they cannot get the education at the right time. Maybe that they don't see that there is really a future for them in this country. So we need to make them wanted, give them the right education, and make them felt needed in order that they could contribute to the economy. And one of the special means that have been developed is, of course, the entrepreneurship drive, where we could turn them into entrepreneurs and where they could play a major role. Today we are having a very high burden which we are carrying. Any government that comes in, including the present government, has been loaded with this high debt. We have to go on a massive drive for foreign direct investment. This should be a priority. And I think if we do this, it will not only help our country, it will develop our economy, it will develop our exports, and we will be able to build reserves to pay these large foreign debts.
If I see the entire journey of Sri Lanka, 1948 to, let us say, 1964, that was the phase, initial zeal of the country to open up and actually be part and partner of international trade with open up economy. But that led to certain kind of unfavorable bottom line in terms of balance of payment. And suddenly from 1964 to, let us say, 1977, that is second phase of Sri Lankan journey on economic development, suddenly there was a flip, 180-degree turn, and Sri Lanka decided to become more and more, let us say, inward looking economy. Third phase I paint as 1977 to 1990, where Sri Lanka again opened up, and that was the first phase where the continuous trajectory of growth started. But unfortunately, for about 10 years, this lovely country became a place of bloodbath, unfortunate incidents, but country lost around 1 decade in those affairs. And later on, the journey continued, but the country also witnessed certain kind of debate on constitutional crisis. Sometime in 2016, 17, 18, where these issues were actually rampant in the country. And then 2018 to 2022, especially, I need not to tell, that country was just watching that when the leadership will give us proper direction, but things were taking a different direction. And after 1922, especially May 1922, new dawn has started. And now the country has to move further. Sri Lanka should decide not 20 economic variables, national consensus on 5 strong economic indicators which would be the lighthouse for say next 5 years, not more than 5. Sri Lanka should keep a top priority, and that can be churned out after proper debates among those who are economists, those who are representing government, those who are representing industry and business, and those who are representing education.
As a long-standing development partner of Sri Lanka, Japan International Cooperation, or JICA, remains steadfast in its commitment to supporting the country's recovery and economic growth. JICA continues to work hand in hand with Sri Lanka in areas such as infrastructure development, human resource capacity building, and policy reforms to enhance the country's economic resilience and global competitiveness. As Sri Lanka navigates its next phase of development, we are committed to fostering innovation, strengthening industries, and supporting initiatives that drive inclusive growth. Looking ahead, Sri Lanka stands at a critical juncture. The road to sustainable economic growth will require a combination of strategic decision-making, innovation, and leadership. The ability to maneuver through complex challenges, foster collaboration across industries, and embrace new ideas will be critical in shaping a resilient and thriving Sri Lanka.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.